minutes on Q.
I'll just drink the bottle.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The Committee on Education, Finance, and Taxation now convenes its public hearing. Public hearing notices were given to the media. First notice on Monday, November 13. Second notice on Thursday, November 16. And for the record, today is Tuesday, November 21st, 2017, and the time is now 5 o'clock. The committee will hear and accept testimony for both oral and written on the following: referral of appointment of Domingo L. Ocampo as a classroom teacher member for the Guam Commissioner for Educator Certification. Term length is 3 years. And the reappointment of Ms. Gail Hendricks, correct? As a member of the Guam Commissioner for Educator Certification. Term length is also 3 years. And Bill number 169-34 COR, as introduced by Senator Tom Ciata, an act to add new section 24401.1 and 24401.2 to Article 4 of Chapter 24 of Title 11 Guam Code Annotated, relative to tax exemption for 100% disabled veteran, surviving spouse, legal guardian, and Gold Star spouse and parents. I'd like to acknowledge that present with me on the panel, and also a member of the committee, is Senator Will Castro, joining me for the public hearing. We will start the public hearing, but the conduct of the public hearing shall be: those testifying will be recognized in the order of sign-up on the sign-in sheet. Written testimony may be read. Lengthy written testimony should be summarized to about 5 minutes. Written testimony shall be submitted to the committee. Please provide our legislative staff with your written testimony for photocopying. Testimony shall be confined to the substance or the nature of the nominee's appointment. Persons will be allowed to present oral testimony only once. Once you are done, you may be asked to remain in the room for question or for additional testimony, as may be desired by members of the panel. When you speak, please make sure that the microphone is on and that you speak into the microphone. Then please state your name for the record. We'll begin testimony of Mr. Domingo L. Ocampo, and will be followed immediately by Ms. Gail Hendricks. After we're done with you, Mr. Ocampo, we'll just go right into Mr. Hendricks, Ms. Hendricks, because both of you are for the same commission. Okay? And I will start with you, Mr. Domingo.
Half-day Senator San Agustin and Senator Castro. I'd like to thank the committee for facilitating this hearing. I am honored and humbled by the Governor's Office nomination to be the teacher representative board member for the Guam Commission for Educator Commission certification. I'd like to acknowledge the support from my family, friends, and colleagues who have provided support through this endeavor. Currently, I am a 7th grade science teacher at Estumo Middle School, and I enjoy every minute of it. When I became an educator, I learned a great deal about the teaching profession and a lot about myself. In the beginning, it made me look back at my own educational experience. It made me realize that I've always had teachers and mentors who selflessly gave their attention and guidance to ensure I was on a path to success. I hope I am providing the same support for our students. I take pride when I see my students achieve success inside and outside our classrooms. I hope to contribute to the continuing mission of the Guam Commission for Educator Certification. My current status as a classroom teacher and my experiences in the private sector will prove useful when making board decisions. I will also try to help any professionals who would consider teaching in the next chapter of their career. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ocampo. We also have Ms. Hendricks and Ms. Leah, and also, yeah, just Ms. Leah. But we also have supporting by the, let me see, we got Barbara, a retired. That would be you, Rashid? Okay. So we'll have Ms. Hendricks first and then Ms. Leah. Okay?
Thank you, Senator San Agustin. I would like to, I am here at this part of the testimony to fully support the nomination of Domingo Ocampo. I've been working with Mr. Ocampo for several years as in my capacity as the Field Experience Coordinator at the University of Guam. During that time, Mr. Ocampo has stepped up to help mentor future teachers. I think that's a very, very important task that is often overlooked when we are preparing future teachers, is the quality of the individuals who do step up to mentor. Sometimes it's like pulling teeth to get them, oh, okay, oh, all right. Mr. Ocampo has been very generous with his time and very open to the program and to the improvement of teachers on Guam. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Leah.
Honorables, Senator San Agustin, Senator Ana, Senator Castro, and Vice Speaker Tarlahi. I'm Leah Santos, the Executive Director of the Guam Commission for Educator Certification. I support the nomination of Domingo Ocampo to the Commission. His appointment meets the requirement of Public Law 29-73 for a classroom teacher representative, as well as he will be the only male member of our board. We've had a hard time looking for a male representative. The nominee is a teacher for Guam DOE, a certified secondary science teacher at Astumbo Middle School. He has been teaching for 5 years. Aside from his master's in teaching, he completed a BS in aerospace engineering, an associate degree in marine biology, and has an FAA license in airframe and PowerPoint. With his diverse expertise, he is definitely an interesting science teacher. Domingo will bring a different perspective to the Commission with his private sector experience, from Mobil Oil to a local retail store to a publishing house, as well as the aviation industry and engineering companies. I humbly ask for your support for his nomination. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Santos. I'd like to also recognize that here with me on the panel would be Senator Tom Atta and Vice Speaker Senator Teresa Lai. Ma'am, if you would, thank you.
Good afternoon, Senators. My name is Maya Ocampo. I am related to this man sitting next to me. I'm also a teacher with the Guam Department of Education. I have over 20 years experience in the department, and I've also taught adjunct at the University of Guam. I have begun working with him over the last 5 years. I would like to basically say I always knew he was going to be a good teacher. He just has such a good rapport and trust with children of all ages, and when he decided, should I be a teacher, I was right there to encourage him to do it. He tried it out for a year, and during that year he loved it so much that he invested his time to pursue his education and receive his master's in teaching. And he's a highly valued employee at Astumbo Middle School. I can see the kids love him. I can see that his colleagues enjoy working with him. They have a very good working relationship, and he goes above and beyond what regular classroom teachers do. He initiates being part of committees. He has joined the STEM projects, which is advancing his lessons in science. He has joined the Positive Behavior Intervention Support System as a cadre. I could go on and on and on, but he always takes the initiative to do his part in not only completing his job, but making the school and the students' lives much better.
Thank you.
And with your permission, I would like to read another testimony from our colleague. This is from Ms. Leilani Guerrero. She would first like to apologize for her absence today. She truly wanted to be present to show and verbalize her support for her colleague and friend, Mr. Domingo L. Ocampo. Due to unforeseen circumstances this past week, I was unable to be in attendance at the legislature today. Nevertheless, I would like to formally submit my testimony for Mr. Ocampo in support of his nomination to serve as the classroom teacher member to the Guam Commission for Educator Certification. I have known Domingo L. Ocampo since the school year 2013 to 14, when he came in to take over my class as a science teacher. I was a bit territorial, so I wanted to ensure that whomever it was that took over my position in the team, that I love so dearly was worthy of the position. It did not take me long to realize that Mr. Ocampo was a truly committed and professional teacher who set the expectations high for not only his students, but for all students at Estumbo Middle School, and even more fortunate to have him as a colleague. Needless to say, it took even less time for me to realize that Mr. Ocampo also sets high expectations for his colleagues as well, both teachers and administrators alike. And he is a prime example of the competent, knowledgeable, and highly qualified educator. Mr. Ocampo is also a model teacher. He is a prime example as an exemplary teacher. He has great classroom management and is a fair, firm, and humorous rapport with his students. I sincerely love visiting his classroom whenever I'm able to observe because I am sure to learn something in a fun and interesting way. He makes use of technology and is able to deliver his curriculum in a way that makes learning fun. Mr. Ocampo is a natural leader. I have witnessed him at work in various extracurricular roles outside of the classroom as the team leader, school climate cadre representative, data committee leader for the same cadre, who's responsible for supporting positive student behavior and making the overall school environment safe. And I have even had the honor and privilege to work with him on the school's leadership team. Recently, Mr. Ocampo also volunteered as a focus group leader for accreditation, a very special position that requires a lot of hard work and guidance in the school's ever-continuing improvement process. Very few people actually take the initiative to step into roles such as this, but Mr. Ocampo did so without any hesitation or reservation. Mr. Ocampo is a great supporter of those in need of help, and it would be very wise in decision to have him on your side. He always seems to be the first one to step in and say, "What do we need to do?" or "What's next?" And it is his continued willingness and motivation to continue to learn something new, even with all his current expertise and knowledge, that continues to amaze me about Mr. Ocampo. It is my testimony that Mr. Ocampo would be the best person to represent all classroom teachers for the Guam Commission for Educator Certification, an organization whose main objectives are to ensure that teachers in the classroom are highly qualified, competent, and responsible for the education of our children. I have witnessed Mr. Ocampo ensure fairness while upholding the utmost respect for his colleagues, which is why I hope you will confirm his nomination to serve as the classroom teacher member to the Guam Commission for Educator Certification. Thank you for your time and your consideration, Ms. Leilani P. Guerrero.
Thank you. I'd like to also mention that we've received written testimony from Rosmunda Garcia Rios, okay, from JFK, also from Roy Suk, A-U-S-E-C.
Osik.
Osik.
Roy
okay.
Osik, yes.
Also, we received from Fred C. Regis from Estumbo, and also from, I think it's Marie or Mar Pangilinan?
Yes,
The consulting.
Marina Pangilinan.
Okay. Do we have any questions from the panel? Vice Speaker?
I just want to say, Mr. Ocampo, I'm glad that I was here today and to hear all the good testimony about you. I'm glad to meet you and thank you. It sounds this going above and beyond and volunteering in schools and mentoring teachers. It's very, very important. Thank you very much. Rare. It's rare and I'm glad. Very good.
Thank you for the acknowledgement.
Senator Castro?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just want to state for the record, as a fellow educator, I certainly stand in support of the nomination. It's really encouraging to hear the testimonies given by a person with tremendous credibility and also to have character references read into the record. And so, you know, I appreciate hearing about your leadership and instructional excellence and being assertive. Mr. Chair, those are the kind of educators that we should fight to retain and cultivate into even greater leadership roles. And so, with that said, I thank you sincerely as an educator for accepting the nomination.
Thank you, Mr. Castro.
Senator Abbott?
Mr. Ocampo, I just want to say thank you for stepping up. I'm sure you could find other things to do with your time, but you've decided that you will spend a lot of that valuable time with the commission. I'm impressed by your application here, especially the fact that you're an FD graduate. And I'm impressed by the fact that you actually have a technical academic background. And I've always viewed those curriculum as preparing those students to be able to think in a real logical, systematic way. And I'm sure you'll bring, a lot of that to the things that you do. So again, thank you very much for doing this, and you certainly would have my support. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Ocampo, for accepting the nomination. And I do look forward to seeing some positive activity out of the Educators Certification Commission. I know Ms. Leah is like, I need help. Can please people step up? And you've got the credentials. So I thank you for accepting the nomination. Does anybody else want to express anything on behalf of Mr. Ocampo? And if not, we will just move, because the same panel is going to testify for Ms. Hendricks. So we have Ms. Hendricks, you're also a nominee, returnee, reappointed nominee. Ms. Hendricks, if you can go ahead and speak on your behalf.
Senator San Agustin, Vice Speaker Terlahi, Senator Atta, Senator Castro, thank you for the opportunity to be reconsidered, to be reappointed to the GCEC. I've been serving on the GCEC for several years, and one of the things that has become very clear to me, especially when I go off island to the one conference that I go every year, which Vice Speaker Terlahi would like, it's full of lawyers. And this conference is about some of the things that are occurring in the states that we don't want to ever see here. And I think that we have worked over this past several years to try to craft the kinds of ethics and responsibilities that all teachers should have. The one nice thing about being separated from the Department of Education is the fact that we get to make decisions without being pressured. And we get to look at all situations in a very clear manner. I very strongly feel we have got to have the best teachers, and I would like to continue to fight for us to have the best teachers. And I apologize, Senator, I did not have written testimony today, but I think I've expressed myself. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Ocampo, I know you have testimony for Ms. Hendricks.
Yes, I am definitely in full support for the continued work of Dr. Hendricks here. I was very fortunate to be mentored by her in the MAT program at University of Guam. That was my first contact with her. And one thing that really stuck out with me is her passion for the education field. Now, she is someone that definitely pushes and strives to ensure that the profession in itself is at the utmost high level, and that's something that she has instilled in me as her student. And when I had the opportunity to work with a teacher student at my time at Assuming Middle School, again, it was Dr. Hendricks that was there, and to my surprise and pleasure to work with continued high-quality teachers. So I fully support her continued work with the Guam Commission for Educator Certification.
Thank you. Ms. Leah.
Senator San Agustin, Senator Atta, Senator Castro, and Vice Speaker Terlahi. I am Leah Santos, Executive Director of the Guam Commission for Educator Certification. I support the reappointment of Dr. Gail Hendricks to the Guam Commission for Educator Certification. Her nomination meets the requirement of Public Law 29-73 for one of two members with a terminal degree in education from an accredited university. Current GCEC Chair Hendricks has been a commission member since 2011. She is a firm believer in the integrity of the certification process must be protected at all times. She is passionate about the safety of all our school children and does not tolerate educator misconduct. As a former principal and former DOE Associate Superintendent, she brings valuable insights of the many challenges in our school system. She is currently an assistant professor teaching school law and is also in the field coordinator for student teachers and those undergoing internship. Gail's commitment to our island is evidenced by her numerous civic involvement, ranging from the Girl Scouts to the Guam Telecommunication Board and others. I humbly ask for your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Ocampo, would you like to speak?
Good afternoon again, Senators. I just wanted to basically give my favor towards Dr. Hendricks. Again, I've worked with DOE for over 20 years, and in those 20 years, I've worked with Dr. Hendricks numerous times. I've seen her in all aspects of education in the sense of being a principal, a teacher, a consulting resource teacher with the special education department, advocating for the children's needs, and making sure that all the services are delivered in an equitable manner, that they receive free and appropriate public education. I've also worked with her over at Cedars, where she's been very supportive of me in my work as a student reaching my master's degrees. I have a master's degree in counseling as well as a master's degree in special education. And I've seen her as a college professor where she has such passion and knowledge about her field, and she really imparts that to our students. And also just working with her as a colleague. Even though she has the title Dr. Hendricks, she's never made us feel like, you know, we need to address her in a certain manner. She's always very congenial, friendly, and supportive. Whenever I needed advice, she's always been there for me. And I think teachers like her or people in the profession like her are reasons why my transition into DOE has been a very memorable and rewarding experience.
Thank you. Senator Terlai, do you have Vice Speaker?
Dr. Hendricks, again, I'm grateful for the good testimony from your colleagues, and I'm very grateful for your continued willingness to serve in this capacity. It's a very important capacity for Guam, for our teachers, and I agree with you that we should have the best teachers in our schools. So thank you for your commitment to that. And because you're a returning board member, I just want to ask, what do you foresee for this upcoming term? I mean, are there changes that you intend to make?
I think some of the things that we need to do is work on some of our internal SOPs and get them into writing so that when situations come up, if somebody new is in, they will have the opportunity to know what has been going on in the past. You know, without SOPs, you know, the law doesn't really work as well as it should. I also would like to see us continue to examine how we are doing things, the kinds, if there's any changes that we would want to the law. At the present time, we're not looking at putting any changes forward, but you know, law is fluid. So you know, the idea that we might want to make a change or make an addition down the road, but it's only going to be through the commission working as a coherent group that we'll be able to do those kinds of things.
Thank you again.
Senator Castro.
Mr. Chairman, think of the educators who are in the room. You just got to say Gail Hendricks. Enough said. But to the listening audience, you know, I remember you, Dr. Hendricks, when you were associated with Project Hutsa, and you worked alongside other fine education professionals like Dr. Lean Yamashita and, of course, Ms. Pat Bennett. I do want folks to know that you've run the full spectrum from educator to administrator, but also as commissioner and also as volunteer. And not only have you worked with high-achieving educators in different programs, you've definitely helped us in the area of helping students with special needs. And so I personally believe you bring a lot to the table, and I thank you again for not quitting on us, for accepting yet another nomination, and you have my support.
Thank you, Senator.
Senator Ada.
Well, there's really not much more I can add, but whenever they mention the name Gail Hendricks, it's always associated with DOE and JFK, and it's always been in a very positive light. And so I'm certainly glad that you're going to continue to be part of the commission. So welcome back.
Thank you, Senator.
And thank you, Dr. Hendricks, for accepting the renomination. And I look forward to actually seeing both of you actually being approved on the floor. If somebody gives, all they have to do is look at both your records, and it stands for itself. But I don't want to miss out on, we have one gentleman that just walked in, Mr. Jonathan Kwan. Sir, I see your written testimony, and I don't want to leave you not testifying, because you wanted to testify for Mr. Ocampo. Please come forward, and you can at least read your testimony. We've got some time. Okay. State your name and then read out loud.
Buenas tardes, Maninajas of Manilugu. Guajasi Jonathan Kwan, and I'm here to wholeheartedly support the confirmation of Domingo Leo Campo for the Guam Commission for Educator Certification. I have known this man since we were sophomores in Father Dueñas. Even back then, he was very bright and hardworking. He was a good student. He was a very good student, and he was also an athlete. He was in football, and he was also at wrestling. Domingo was always upbeat and determined, and was always helpful to his classmates. During our years at Dueñas, I don't recall ever seeing him angry or malicious. I'm speaking today about him as a man and the person I grew up with. The son of a single mother, since his dad passed away when he was 7 years old, he didn't have much, yet he never complained. His school clothes were old, but always ironed. His school bag was secondhand, a hand-me-down, but I remember him always being upbeat and determined to succeed, but not at the cost of hurting others. Domingo went on to acquire his bachelor's degree in aerospace engineering in 1993, his associate's degree in marine technology in 1995, his aircraft maintenance technical vocation in 1997, and his master's degree in teaching in 2015. I don't know anyone else who has that breadth of education. I can barely add myself, so those degrees are outside of my abilities whatsoever. After he graduated from aerospace engineering degree and his marine technology degree, he began a very promising career in aerospace engineering in Texas and eventually California. It is my understanding he commenced working for an engineering firm that handled contract projects for General Electric Nuclear. He worked for them evaluating nuclear reactor designs. In aerospace engineering world, from my understanding, he was slowly but surely making his way towards the aerospace engineering Shangri-La. He was on his way. And then 3 months later, I found out that he came home and was working for his mother's small grocery store outside of UOG, Fine Store. I remember running into him early in the morning, and he was stacking cans on the shelves, and he was stacking pallets of soft drinks in the back and food. A lot of people thought, oh, he must have washed out on the mainland, or he couldn't make it. He bore the behind-the-back comments with dignity and grace and never let it bother him. I later found out that he came home because his mother had been attacked and beaten at her grocery store while she was at the cash register. He gave up a promising career in aerospace engineering to take care of his mom. He worked at Fine Store for 2 years until she and his stepfather got financially back on their feet. He did it without complaint and with dignity and grace. That's the kind of man he is. Over the years we've talked, he always would say that his first love was building missiles, planes, and spaceships. When I watch movies with him, he never fails to point out during the movie how the science is wrong or how the inertial whatever is beyond my understanding. But he points it out during the movies anyway. And he would often say he missed it. He missed doing that type of thing. That is until he found teaching. The first few months of teaching in our classrooms, and he found his place in the world. I remember him saying he loved teaching science and math to the next generation. Being a former teacher, not of his caliber, but being a former teacher myself, you know when someone has caught the bug. And Domingo definitely caught the bug very bad. He and his wife, Maya Perez Ocampo, have chosen to dedicate their lives to this profession. And in closing, I'd like to ask, does this man possess the qualifications to serve on this commission? Yes. Does this man possess the moral character to serve on this commission? Yes. Should you confirm this man to serve on this commission? Absolutely yes. Please do so.
Thank you, Mr. Kwan. Does any of the panel want to ask any questions?
I just want to say, if I need a defense lawyer, I'm going to call you.
I just want to know which movie he was critiquing.
You work for prosecution, right? Okay. There being no one else to testify on behalf of Mr. Ocampo or Mr. Hendricks, the committee will conclude the confirmation hearing for the two of you, and the committee will continue to receive testimony for the next few days, actually until Friday. Please address your written testimony to the Committee on Education, Finance, and Taxation, and submit it via email to Senator Joe S. San Agustin at gmail.com. My office located at Rand Care Building, 2nd floor, Suite 3, 761 South Marine Corps Drive, Tumuning, Guam, 96931. Si Jules Marcy for your attendance and participation in today's nomination hearing. And for those home, thank you for watching. We will now move to Bill number 169-34, as introduced by Senator Tom Siada, and is relative to tax exemption for 100% disabled veterans, surviving spouse, legal guardian, and Gold Star spouses and parents. And I'd ask the sponsor of the bill, Senator Ada, to please make his opening statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bill 169-34 will provide a tax exemption for those veterans who have been rated as 100% disabled, or to their surviving spouses and legal guardians, and to the Gold Star spouses. I should clarify that 100% tax exemption is for real estate taxes. And the whole idea behind this is, and actually the population that would benefit from this bill will primarily be those veterans from the wars subsequent to Vietnam. A lot of the Vietnam veterans who have been rated as 100% disabled, or their Gold Star surviving spouses or parents actually would qualify for another exemption on the basis of their age. But we have many veterans who have returned from the Iraqi war, the war in Afghanistan, who are still very young, but nonetheless have been rated at the 100% disability. And we also have young Gold Star spouses or parents. And so that's the population that would actually benefit from this bill. And I firmly believe that we need to do as much as we can to give economic advantage to those veterans who have made the great sacrifice for our country by giving them a leg up with respect to their economic status situation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We don't have anybody signed up, but does anyone in the panel, before I make a statement, Senator Terlai, you have anything you want to say?
I just wanted to, I guess, find out, I was hoping for some testimony, but perhaps the sponsor would just, there's currently an exemption, like you pointed out earlier, for senior citizens, a reduced tax rate for real property taxes, and there's also a reduced tax rate for U.S. citizens with disabilities and heads of households with dependents with disabilities. So the bill refers to a person who is rated by the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs as 100% disabled due to injuries, but are they not already covered under our current reduced tax rate for persons with disabilities? That's I guess, what I want to clarify.
I am not aware of the latter group that you're speaking of. I'm aware of the tax exemptions, property tax exemptions that is provided to senior citizens, but I am not aware of the non-veterans who have some disability. I guess I would have to do some research into that. And if there is, of course, having this on the in the Guam Code annotated certainly does not take away from anybody else. The size of the population we're talking about, we're not talking in the thousands. And this is based on, if we go to the Department of Revenue and Tax to take a look at the number of veterans or the same population who have taken advantage of the vehicle registration tax exemption, we find that it's really maybe a couple of hundred at the most who have taken advantage of it. So we're not talking about, half of Guam. We're talking about really a small population, but a population that certainly would deserve it. And if the existing law makes this bill duplicative in nature, then we certainly will take a look at. We don't need to have two laws doing the same thing. Then we'll take a look at that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. No, I was just hoping that there wasn't, like our veterans weren't having an issue being how do they call it here? They say meet the definition established by DICID, like being certified by DICID, that's all. I'm hoping that all 100% disabled veterans are easily qualified by DICID. That's what I was hoping, that there wasn't any issue there. So I'm glad to hear that. Thank you very much.
Senator Castro? Okay. I'd like to make a statement. Number one, for Senator Terlai, in order for a veteran to be 100% disabled, it's got to come from the Veterans Affairs. Okay, so that's a given, the U.S. Veterans Affairs. And I'd like to actually state that I'm in support totally of this bill as a veteran. I honestly believe that our veterans are well deserving of this. And the numbers are not that high. And coincidentally, quite a few of our veterans today already are taking advantage of the senior citizen rate reduction. So they're only going to get an additional 20%. It's almost actually a real small drop in the bucket. And I wish we had this earlier for them, but we got it now, and I look forward to seeing this on the floor to be voted on and supported by all our colleagues. Senator Tom, would you like to make any closing statement? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, there being no one to testify, we have heard the Bill 169-34 as introduced by Senator Tom in reference to tax exemption for 100% disabled veterans, surviving spouse, legal guardian, Gold Star spouse, and parents in reference to real property tax. There being none, we will continue to receive testimony until Friday. And then the next few days, please address your written testimony to the Committee on Education, Finance, and Taxation and submit it via email to Senator Joe S. San Agustin at gmail.com. My office located at Rand Care Building, 2nd floor, Suite 3, 761 South Marine Corps Drive, Tumuning, Guam, 96931. Si Jus Masi for your attendance and participating in today's hearing. And for those at home, thank you for watching. It is now 5:39 and this hearing is now adjourned. Thank you.